Mommytrack Daddy Whispers Podcast is now called Birth Agni Podcast.
Hello, listeners. Good morning, evening, namaste. Welcome to episode 10. You're listening to Mommytrack Daddy Whispers, a podcast where we discuss common societal issues and why things are the way they are, how else we can see them, deal with them, and maybe just ignore them. I come from India, so we speak from the Indian family setup perspective. And today's topic is centered around parenting police. So, if you're a new mother and have just had breakfast this morning, thinking about how the last few days have been, some of this may resonate with your experience. If you are a parent to a toddler, this may stimulate some old memories. If you're starting your day or you're about to hit the bed, I hope this connects a chord and helps you sail through a situation wherein you feel you're being criticized by the near and dear ones who actually mean well. Today we are going to discuss what is parent policing, why does this exist in families or in society in general, what is the origin of criticism, and can we actually wipe all of this out? So let's start with what is parent policing, but before, an intro. Welcome to Mommytrack Daddy Whispers, a podcast about women, postpartum, and parenting as a whole, without subjecting it to motherhood or fatherhood. We are a bi-weekly podcast where we share our experiences and learning as parents with an intent to align diverse experiences and grow into a community wherein we mutually uplift each other. My name is Divya, and we all have that one uncle, aunt, or a friend who's always prompt to pick on you or your family. They would come in and say, "Why did you have those red covers to your cushions?" Or, "That plant would look better on the outside, right?" "Okay, we have parathas in the breakfast. Why do you have cereals?" So that is policing, a subtle way of enforcing your belief, process, and procedure onto others without being asked and without actually trying to weigh if there's a need at all. That is policing. And from this, we derive the term parent policing. The internet is flooded with stories of new parents talking about them being ridiculed for the new choices that they make. And I remember once a friend told me that right after she gave birth, she expressed stress over tons of things being suggested to her concerning motherhood. And she plainly said, "Divya, क्या मैं अपने बच्चे का ख्याल खुद नहीं रख सकती? Cannot I take care of my own baby?" And that happens. New parents can often feel that with the plethora of advice and parenting methods thrown at them, their ability of taking decisions as a parent is being questioned. And as a society, if we scale this up, we would see that we've had policing in different areas. It still continues because it is an integral part of human interaction. And I'm not sure if we can wipe that out. And to think how monotonous life would be if we did not have criticism in the first place would be a different story altogether. And what do I mean when I say we cannot wipe criticism out of our lives? Sample this, aap kitchen mein hai, and you're cooking pizza. You saw on the internet a new method of making it, and probably some friend of yours had tried it and they said, "Oh, it turned out delicious." But then somebody suggests कि probably ये चीज़ ऐसे डालने से जल जाएगा, या इसको इतना सेकने से इसका base would be hard. You might feel for a second or so that you're being policed. Now, if you would see it from a distance and see where the suggestion is coming from, you may realize that this is wisdom being transferred to you through suggestion. Which is why I think some sort of criticism is important, and it's not right to expect that this can be wiped out. Now, the kitchen example is very trivial. It's a small thing, can be easily ignored, and it doesn't affect us in the long run. But when it comes to parenting, the policing, especially for new parents or the first-time parents in families, is far more evident, far more felt, because it is a sensitive area. an emotional area where a new life is born, which is a huge emotional responsibility, and clearly, the stakes are very high. We would dig deeper from the Indian family perspective because there it becomes complex due to various reasons, and I would not need to specify because it is exactly what you're thinking right now. Now, let's talk about why policing exists in families, especially for new parents and first time parents. In a family where different generations live together, when a baby is born, especially the first child of the family, the focus of the entire family becomes the well being of the child. It becomes a composite responsibility in a way. It comes with a number of people pouring in different suggestions at you, which is important and the very beauty of the family. Why does it still feel stressing then? Let's break it down. Because sometimes these suggestions, they go unregulated, out of love or natural human possessiveness. And when one thing is stressed a number of times, it feels more like a compulsion and less like a suggestion. To give you an example, I chose exclusive breastfeeding for my daughter, and everybody, including my friends, suggested that I should not do it exclusively. And I'm a kind of person who derives inspiration from nature, and I could not come to understand as to why my daughter would not be full until she shows any signs of it. And it was more than that. There were genuine concerns around me going back to work and everything. And I was lucky because I could explain to my family my intentions and that I understood the risk it carried being a working woman, and I was up for any kind of ramifications it may have because I had already weighed in all the angles and still wanted to do it. Family, with all its beauty, despite this decision being very new to them and untested, they kind of allowed and gave me a space to continue. But it was the neighbors, far off relatives, who would come down one day to see the baby and throw random rules, and trust me, they threw rules at us. If their entry coincided with decrying, which is a normal baby experience, they would question her feeding and map all her problems to the fact that she was being exclusively breastfed. This happened so many times that there was a point in time that I did not want to meet outsiders. I was so irritated and always comprehending a possibility that somebody would throw in a random suggestion and it would make me go mad. A new mother is a vulnerable creature. She's a vulnerable human being, tired, overwhelmed with emotions herself, and brimming with hormones going topsy-turvy. This kind of policing from extended family and random people has an effect. That is, they can influence your own family, who were otherwise fine with your new ways of parenting. It can further deteriorate the mental health of a new mother or a father. But I ask myself, if it is that annoying, then why does it happen all the time? And why more and more parents are complaining about it? Now let's see the history and appreciate the method of wisdom transfer across generations. Historically, if we see, without the presence of internet and global exposure, traditional wisdom through experience of others was always passed on through suggestions and expressions of what worked for somebody, and it may work for you. But with the amalgamation of cultures and exposure to the world, more and more parents already have a method of parenting in their minds even before they become a parent. And today generations are wanting to experiment and see what works for them. Hence, a difference in opinions and a shift from what is traditional can create conflicts. But the good thing is that it is a phase of unlearning and learning for the entire family. Do you see what I'm trying to say? The initial family policing is a phase. When everybody wants the best for the child of the family, they would consider their best to be the best and what should be done. That is where conflicts occur. Remember, everybody wants the best for the child. And often what piles up is actually trivial things as to what the color the baby should wear and what should we do. We need to talk about differences. We need to talk about what can be causing conflicts without trying to push ourselves onto others. Because wisdom has meaning. And when we sit down and discuss, we can comprehensively come onto a solution. Okay, Sometimes somebody's best can be done, and sometimes somebody else's best can be done. And a baby can only be happy in a family where people are moderately happy with each other. Teamwork skills at its best. Which is why I would like to talk about family dynamics now. It is such an important topic, and we all should think about it when we are dealing with each other in our families. Now, there may be times when things are not trivial, and there may be an important decision around the child that needs to be made, and there may be differences in opinions in the family. Even in that situation, I think confrontation is the best way to go about it. When everybody sits together and something is concluded, and every member of the family is explained why the decision is made the way it is, not everybody would be happy with it. But with time, a family starts to learn what is other people's methods. So one person of the family may have a different method and the other person may have a different method. And eventually, with the course of time and patience, they all come to understanding each other's methods. And the appreciation comes into picture, but it takes time. And it is important to understand that with the entry of a new member in the family, the dynamics of the family would change. Why parent policing initially seems huge is because there's a shift in the dynamics of the family, which was not comprehended earlier. And which is why we're having this discussion right now. We want to bring out this fact that with time, the family dynamics changes. The dynamics of a family is always fluid. It would change with time, with children growing, with us aging. It will change. But the methods to a good cohesive living would remain same. Confrontation, encouragement, appreciation, and respect. And they require practice. They may seem very simple adjectives or nouns. I don't know what they are, but those are the rules. And I really wish someone had told me earlier that there will be a shift in the dynamics of the family. Because then it is easier to accept and work on these changes that hurt you when you're ready for those. My experience around the initial parent policing in the family is that it settles down. And there's a reason that it is there in the first place because of conflict of opinions. And it is important to allow a family to settle down to each other's thought processes and preferences with respect to the child. I hope I've been able to bring a valid point on the table. Now let's talk about the origin of criticism. Is there an origin to criticism? This word was coined in 14th century somewhere. But from what I've read, I believe this is a part of natural human interaction. And based on what I read, this should have been there throughout the history of mankind. Because how else would knowledge and wisdom be transferred? But there is a very fine line between policing and healthy criticism. And how can you isolate between two? There are two parameters. One, method. Second, intention. Now, method is the key. There can be an open discussion of differences in opinions where each participant respects what is being brought on the table, even if they might not be favorable to the idea. And what is intention? The well-being of the process. This, I believe, however, is not an instinctive method. This is more of a conscious effort, wherein one requires awareness of our actions, their impact on others, which would require practice. A lot of our daily conversations can be one-sided, where we are only speaking to put across a point than reaching a common goal. Survival and the need for validation can be the power behind a lot of one-sided, unhealthy conversations, where the agenda is to actually just prove a point. So what can we do? As I mentioned earlier, I do not think we can wipe out criticism because it is needed for growth. We can, however, mold our conversations and the intention behind it. We can mold the method, and let's do it together. Now, when I talked about policing from family, I talked about how and why it's there and why it can be important. But I also want to say that family and people who have stakes in raising a child is a different perspective altogether. But when random people throw unhealthy criticism at you, it is at best stopped because we would not want to normalize this. It needs to be called out and concerns should be raised on how this affects new parents and it should be brought into light. We as a culture limit ourselves to surrendering in order to please other people, but building trust and individuality is important for a healthy and saner society, and we need to start respecting each other in that respect. Now, let me make things easier by bringing out a chunk of what not to say to a new parent, instead, what to say. I would first tell what not to say to a new parent, and instead, what should be said. When are they planning a new kid? Don't say that to a new parent. Instead, ask how is it going with the new child and if they need help at all. Oh, you look slimmer. No, please don't go there. Do not call out the fat and the lack of it, please. Instead, you can maybe take a packet of fruits to somebody's place, give them a year-long subscription to a gym where they can start whenever they want. Do that instead. That is encouragement. Now, if you find a cranky, tough baby with a mother in a mall, say, do not throw random advice at what the mother is doing right or wrong, especially in public places. Instead, offer to calm the child down and probably help the mother lifting some grocery while she calms the baby herself. Simply do not enter a territory you have no visibility in. Do not judge a parent because you do not know how much struggle they've gone through. Also, do not judge when parents leave their children behind. Instead, encourage some me time for parents because they need it. They are individual human beings. Now, with that list, we figure out that conversations should be encouraging. The vital element to any criticism being healthy is encouragement. Criticism is important, but it should be encouraging. It should not be discouraging. Please encourage and learn and appreciate the colors of life and different people around. Create a less judging world. It will be easier to sail through for all of us because we are all going through our own set of problems. And let's hope we do not end up creating problem for others. We can find ourselves in situations where we become the police, right? Because it is not a fair world. We are human beings and we, a lot of the times, in a lot of situations, respond instinctively rather than consciously. But let's all talk about what discomforts us to bring more and more of conscious conversations around and help each other sail through what is called life. Now I'd come to the parenting tip of the episode. The parenting tip of the episode would be for parents to less criticize their children, rather to criticize less, where they do not have to prove their point to be heard, where they're respected for individuality and the novel choices they make in life, because the society has changed and the tools of conversation and communication have changed from what we lived in through our childhood. Let's catch up and teach respect by practicing it daily in little activities we do. Bring in a culture of appreciation of the new methods, because children, what wonderful teachers they come out to be. Criticize less, encourage more, appreciate more. With that, we will end the show. If you did not agree with something I said here, please write to me. I would love to know your side of the story. And if you like listening to us, please subscribe, download, and share. You can write to me through my Instagram handle at @divya.kapoorofficial. I'll be waiting to listen to your stories and will bring you another episode. I hope that works for you. Till then, keep healthy, keep safe, and keep listening.